So hello, everyone. Welcome to another Clear Mountain interview. Today we are so happy to have Bhante Gunaratana with us. And I'll give a brief biography of the Venerable. So Bhante Hinapola Gunaratana Mahatera is an internationally recognized author and meditation teacher and is the founding abbot of the Bhavana Society Buddhist Monastery in Western Virginia, where he regularly leads retreats on vipassana, mindfulness, loving kindness, and concentration practices. Born in rural Sri Lanka in 1927, so this makes him currently 93 years old. He took novice ordination at age 12 and has thus been in monastic robes for 81 years. It's amazing. Bhante Ji, as he is fondly called by his students, came to the United States in 1968. In addition to teaching at the Buddhist Vihara of Washington, D.C., where he served as president, at American University, also in Washington, D.C., where he served as Buddhist chaplain and earned his PhD, and at numerous meditation centers and monasteries around the globe, he is also the author of many best-selling books. These include 8 Mindful Steps to Happiness, The Path of Serenity and Insight, The Jhanas in Theravada Meditation, Meditation on Perception, Beyond Mindfulness in Plain English, The 4 Foundations of Mindfulness in Plain English, Loving Kindness in Plain English, and the now classic meditation manual, Mindfulness in Plain English. So lots of things in plain English. Bhante Ji continues to write books and articles, lead retreats, and teach at Bhavana Society. On the occasion of his 90th birthday, Bhante Ji decided that he would no longer accept invitations that require long-distance travel. He says, "Thank you for all your kind consideration. With metta, Bhante Ji." So, Bhante, we are so fortunate to have you this morning. So, in a recent talk, you said something which is a bit unique in meditation circles. You said, quote, "You can liberate yourself in this very life. This is not magic." And this is a very somewhat unique message, although it's said in the Pali Canon. It's a bit unusual in an American context or a European context where people, one, maybe don't even believe that liberation is possible. And even in a traditional Buddhist context, many people don't believe, even if they think that liberation is possible, they don't think it's possible in this life. Would you be willing to comment on this statement that liberation is possible in this very life?
That's a very, very good question. Most relevant question to this day. Yes, can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear you. Yes, Bhante,
No? Okay.
I can hear you. Yeah.
If you don't hear me, you let me know, because otherwise we don't want to get disconnected.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Bhante.
I say this with 100% confidence, because Buddha himself said, as long as 4 Noble Truths exist, the world will not be empty of arahants. Is there any time 4 Noble Truths does not arise, does not exist? Every moment, every second, every day, everywhere, anytime you experience suffering. That is the first Noble Truth. As soon as you experience suffering, you see immediately, why do I have this suffering? Because I have a desire. I have desire for this, to see, to hear, to smell, to taste, to touch, to think. I have a desire. This desire caused me a lot of trouble, friction, anxiety, worry, fear, tension. Is it not enough to understand suffering? That is suffering. So therefore, that is the first truth, first noble truth. Second, you see, is your desire, greed. Even this morning I mentioned, if I see a flower pot in front of me, if it is, I think that is a problem. Why have they put a flower flower pot right now here, that thought creates pain in me, suffering in me. As soon as I get rid of that suffering, that moment, I'm free. So we can see that in our own personal experience. And as soon as we end that greed, desire, anytime, anywhere, we can attain, we can see Nibbana. We can attain Nibbana. Many people think of seeing the Buddha and then attain and then see Nibbana. That is putting the cart before the horse. You have to see Nibbana to attain. You must attain Nibbana to see the Buddha. How can you do that? You go to Vakkali Sutta. When Vakkali became a monk, as a very devoted person with full of saddha. Even in Anguttara Nikaya, it is mentioned among people, among monks who enter the order with saddha, Vakkali was number one in Etadagga Pali. So when Vakkali was very sick, Buddha visited him and asked, Vakkali, how are you? Vakkali said, Venerable Sir, I am very, very sad. Then Buddha asked, have you any remorse? He said, no remorse. My only remorse is that I cannot see you as often as I want to. Then Buddha said, Vakkali, what is the use of seeing this rotting body, aching body full of impurities? You see the Dhamma. Where is this Dhamma? Where is this Dhamma? What is the Dhamma? 9 steps of Dhamma. Magga, Phala, Nibbana. Sotapanna Magga, Phala, Sakadaga Magga, Phala, Arahanta Magga, Phala, and Nibbana. When you see that, then you see the Buddha. Right now, even though Buddha passed away 2,600 years ago, we can see the Buddha right now if we attain enlightenment, if we attain Nibbana. And therefore, first we have to attain Nibbana, see Nibbana, realize Nibbana, then we can see the Buddha right in front of us. And therefore, when you cannot see the Buddha, the Dhamma, when you cannot see the Nibbana, you can see Nibbana right now. Then, even this morning I mentioned, all we have to do is to look at ourselves. Where is this Nibbana? Where is this Noble Eightfold Path? Where is suffering? Where is the cause of suffering? Where is the end of suffering? So long as we have these things, you cannot see, you cannot attain Nibbana. Any moment, Buddha was such a wonderful psychologist. He said, any moment you remove your greed, you can attain Nibbana. Raga kayo, dosa kayo, moha kayo, Nibbana. When you get rid of your raga, dosa, moha, you can attain Nibbana. And therefore, those lazy people say that they cannot attain Nibbana in this very life. Okay?
Bhante, excuse me.
Yeah.
I very much appreciate your answer. It makes me have a follow-up question. So any moment one removes greed, one can attain Nibbana. And there are certain schools of Buddhism which say not only can Nibbana or liberation be realized in this very life, but in this very moment. So in any moment. And so that brings up the question, if someone, so a practitioner, if the mind is temporarily, say on one level, it's temporarily free from greed, anger, and delusion, would you consider this a moment of liberation? Or are you speaking about maybe capital L liberation, capital L Nibbana?
You can attain capital L when you start with simple L. That is, Buddha said, yato sammasati khandanang udayabhyang labati piti pamojjang amatang tang vijanatang. Whenever a person sees rising and falling of five aggregates, that moment the person experiences nibbana. Rising and falling, appearing and disappearing of all five aggregates. If you see it very clearly, you see how much peace you get. That peace is nibbana at that moment. That is moment by moment nibbana.
Right. Okay. Lowercase n nibbana, lowercase l liberation, the practice of just seeing the aggregates arise and pass away. That's the path. And
then you put into uppercase of L.
And uppercase L liberation.
Yeah.
And that's possible in this life.
That is possible. That is possible.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Bhante. In your answer, you can say with 100% confidence, based on what the Buddha said and quoting from the Pali Canon. And I'm curious how you came to have so much faith in the Pali Canon. Faith is, for many Westerners, something which grows very slowly and oftentimes, doesn't manifest. Especially, many people are skeptical of books, and they don't hold the Pali Canon as anything more special than any other book. It's on the same plane as the Bible. It's on the same plane as maybe Shakespeare. People hold. I'm curious how you grew in faith, how you have so strong faith in the Pali Canon.
As you said in your introduction, I have been a monk for 81 years.
Right.
All these years, I was meditating, thinking, reading canons in Pali, Sinhalese, English translation. I have read them over and over again. Of course, there are certain places where you can have doubt. Those things we can ignore. But the clear message of the Buddha is going from the beginning to the end like a silver line. Silver line. And that is the message we have to understand. And that is why I say understanding is number one. Understanding is number one. You have to have the trust, confidence, faith in the Buddha. And you have to see through lines. There are certain things, certain interpolations, certain things that are not the Buddha's teaching. I say for sure, people, if you want to know what the Buddha taught, whenever you read or hear or discuss anything, if that does not match with the Four Noble Truths, that is not the Buddha's teaching. When you read Dhamma book, you just read it very mindfully, carefully from the beginning to the end, and see if you don't find anything related to Four Noble Truths, that is not the Buddha's teaching. And therefore, I have 100% confidence because whenever I read something, I can sort out which is Buddha's teaching, which is not.
Wow. This is very, very interesting, Bhante, taking the Four Noble Truths as the foundation of one's touchstone for what's Dhamma and what's not. In, say, living in Thailand with certain monks, they will take anything that's in the Tipitaka as being, saying, yes, that's definitely Buddha Vachana. And I'm curious what your perspective is on this somewhat modern movement of early Buddhist texts. So doing comparisons with Chinese agamas, and there's these emergent thoughts among some Buddhists that some parts of the canon are earlier and probably said by the Buddha himself, and some parts are maybe later. People who like to do this will actually sometimes even include the whole of the Abhidhamma Pitaka in this collection of things which were perhaps after the time of the Buddha. And I'm curious if how do you approach these things which are in the Pali Canon, but are perhaps historically a bit later? What's your perspective, Bhante?
as that is what I said in Theravada, Mahayana, Vajrayana, Tantrayana, all these yanas, all agree with Four Noble Truth.
Beautiful.
They all agree. Others are peripheral. Other
Mm.
things, all other things come from cultures, traditions, beliefs, interpolations, and so forth. Remove all these layers of outer things and go to the core, heart. Heart of Buddhism is Four Noble Truth. All schools agree to that. And that is what we have to accept.
So even in reading the Pali Canon, we
Yeah.
always have to keep in mind the Four Noble Truths as our
Touchstone.
looking glass.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Speaking about study, I'm curious if it's possible to give a percentage for how much of our daily life or how much of our practice we should devote to our practice of Buddhism we should devote towards pariyatti, which is study of the scriptures, versus how much to patipatti or formal meditation practice and bhavana.
Really, yes. Pariyatti, Patipatti, Pativeda, these three are important. Even in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta first sermon, in the first sermon, Buddha said that as long as these 3 mold and 12 aspects are not perfectly clear in my mind, I did not declare to the world that I attain enlightenment, that I am Buddha. And these 3 aspects and 12 modes are 3 aspects means Satya, Kitcha, Katha. Theory, practice, and result. Theory, practice, and result. Satya is the truth. Kitcha means the function of the truth. Katha means accomplishment, completing. So you apply these 3 to each Four Noble Truth, each truth of the Four Noble Truth, then you get 12. So when Buddha was not perfectly 100% clear in these 3 aspects and 12 modes of the Four Noble Truth, he never declared to the world that he was the Buddha. And therefore, theory, practice, and realization are equally important. Theory, you don't have to read entire Tipitaka to get the theory. You don't have to practice everything given there to come to the conclusion. You go to select something. Say, Buddha said, practice 1, then you practice 4, then you practice 37, and you are done. Practice 1. What is that one? Is mindfulness. Mindfulness is one of the 3 cardinal factors. Right understanding, right mindfulness, right effort. You can see this Mahachattarasika Sutta. Mahachattarasika is the great discourse on grade 40 in Majjhima Nikaya. And therefore, when are you not unmindful? When you are not mindful, that is you are not practicing. When can you be mindful? I must say anytime. Right now, you and I are talking. We have to be mindful. We have to be mindful right now to understand. Without mindfulness, without paying attention, you cannot understand. I cannot say what I want to say. And therefore, I have to make effort to make myself clear. I have to understand what I say, and I have to be mindful about what I say right now. And therefore, there is no time that we should be unmindful. People say, what do you do with daily mindfulness practice? Sometimes people say, pay attention to what you do. Friends, paying attention to outside anything is not mindfulness. Paying attention to anything outside is not mindfulness. Paying attention to your own mind is the mindfulness. Anytime, greed can arise in our mind, hatred can arise in our mind, confusion can arise in mind. Anytime faith can arise in mind, anytime wisdom can arise in our mind, anytime saddha can arise in the mind. So look at the mind. And that is where we have to see to be mindful. And therefore, that is the practice. And
Wow.
then we see how we attain liberation right that moment.
Wow. And so I love this, Bhante. And so you say first you practice one, so that's mindfulness. And the four, what is the four? Is that the four satipatthana?
Yeah, 4 satipatthana. Then 5 is the 5 aggregates.
5 aggregates. Okay.
And 7 is the 7 noble eightfold, what you call 7 factors of enlightenment. 37 is 37 factors of enlightenment.
Okay.
7 become 37. 1 become 4, then become 5, then become 7, and become 37.
Wow.
All start with 1, right mindfulness. Yeah.
Bhante, so I really appreciate it. I was listening to one of your talks recently, also, and you mentioned the Mahachatari Sakka Sutta, the Majjhima number 117, and you had a phrasing about it. So you have, you phrase the mundane path factors as the Kamma path, and the transcendent factors as the Dhamma path. So could you speak more about this Kamma path and Dhamma path?
That's very good. Karma path is you do wholesome karma, unwholesome karma, and imperturbable karma. They are called apunyabhisankara, punyabhisankara, ananyabhisankara. Apunyabhisankara is unwholesome karma. Collection. Sankara means collection, collecting. Sankatang abhisankarodi sankara. We already have, then we recondition that. We have unwholesome state of mind, we put more unwholesome thing to recondition it. That is unwholesome karma, unwholesome sankhara. And then wholesome sankhara. You have punya, give dana, practice meditation and so forth, wholesome karma. And then you do meditation and attain jhanas. Then when you die, when you have 3, divide by 2, you always have 1 left. And then you add 0 and divide by 2, then it is over, no more left. Similarly, you forget to put the 0. You forgot to put 0. If 3 cannot be divided by 2, add 0. Then you can divide 30 by 2. What is this 0? Bring your greed, hatred, and delusion to 0. Bring your greed, hatred, and delusion to 0. Then there is nothing to divide. Similarly, when you do meritorious deeds, demeritorious deeds, you will be reborn as animals, ghosts, goblins in hells, and so forth. If you do wholesome things, you will be reborn as human, divine, and so forth. If you practice imperturbable jhanas and so forth, you attain Brahma realms, 20 Brahma realms. So you will be, going in merry-go-round in 31 planes of existence. When you do karma, that is karma path. Dhamma path is adding 0 to that. Dhamma path is, Vinaya has 2 sides. Vinaya, the Sikkhapada Vinaya and Dhamma Vinaya. Sikkhapada Vinaya polishes you outwardly. Your speech is nice, your behavior is nice, but inwardly, abhantarang paramajya bahiram, no, bahiram paramajya abhantarang, what do you call it? Kinte abhantarang te gahanam. Bahiram paramajya abhantarang te gahanam. Sikkhapada Vinaya polish you outside, outwardly, speaking very nicely, behave politely, and so forth. But inwardly, there is a lot of garbage. So when we do clean inside, that is Dhamma Vinaya. You train yourself to follow Dhamma, then clean inside. That is Dhamma Vinaya. Other is Sikkhapada Vinaya. Sikkhapada Vinaya polish you outside. Dhamma Vinaya polish you inside.
Wow.
And therefore we have to learn. Buddha said, Tathagata, Buddha said, Aryasya Vinaye. Whenever Buddha used the word Aryasya Vinaye, that is the discipline we have, inward discipline. In the inward discipline, world is different, ocean is different. In inward discipline, we see what is the world and what is the ocean. So in Samyutta Nikaya, in the ocean, the Samudra Sutta, Loka Sutta, he mentioned Aryasya Vinaya Loko, Aryasya Vinaya Samuddo. The Aryasya Vinaya means Dhamma Vinaya. Okay, when we train our inwardly, clean inwardly, that is done by Dhamma. That is called, therefore it is called Dhamma Vinaya. Cleaning outside is called Sikkhapada Vinaya. Just mere Sikkhapada Vinaya, you cannot attain enlightenment. We have to have Dhamma Vinaya.
Wow.
Train the mind from understanding Dhamma.
Bhante, how does this is fascinating, and I've never heard the Dhamma expounded in just this way. I'm curious how one converts or how one up-levels one's Kama path into Dhamma path. Is it just a matter of having mindfulness? So if I'm like doing dana and keeping precepts, but I'm also mindful, then am I on the Dhamma path?
In the, when you practice punya in Thailand, you say bunya, bunj. Punya karma. Yeah. When you do punya must be turned into kusala. Punya keeps you lingering in samsara. Kusala takes you out of samsara. How can you convert punya into kusala? You have to see the stain in punya. You wish to be born as a human being. Ayuvandako, Dhanavandako, Sirivandako, and so Yasavandako. Every word is increasing your desire. That's called punya. Buddha never praised punya. He said, of course, Bhikkhave Mahapunyasa Bhai.
Right.
Don't be afraid of punya. But it has its own flip side. And painful side. That is why I say, you buy one, get one free.
How does that work? How do you buy one, get one free?
You commit punya, and with that punya you have problem in taking rebirth and lingering in samsara.
Okay.
Never get out of samsara. That is what you get free.
Right.
You never wish that. We never wish to have suffering again and again. But it comes back. Therefore, when you come, dinnang phala sukhang. When you give something, you definitely get the result. Definitely get the result. Then why do you want to have Ayuvandako, Dhanavandako, Sirivandako, Yasavandako, Annavandako, and so forth? They are intrinsic nature of karma. Therefore, there are 4 types of karmas. Last karma is kamma khaya kamma. Kamma khaya kamma. Karma to destroy karma.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that is what we have to do.
Mm.
Karma, karma is kusala karma. Karma is kusala. Kusala means skill.
Mm.
Skill. You have to have a skill, as Buddha said in Samyutta Samudra Sutta, yo imang samuddang sagahang sarakkasang sa uming bhayang duttarang achadari. This samudra, what is this samudra? Ocean of suffering. In this, to get rid of ocean of suffering, one has to be very, very mindful. Practice kusala to cut through all these things and swim across without being attacked by sharks, whales, and all other snakes in the ocean. These are the defilements. So we have to be very skillful not to fall back into defiling state.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of karma is called kusala karma.
Wow. So to make one's punya into kusala, so say I want to do some generosity or to do study, to read the texts, to support my family, to make gestures of respect, to take that from being punya on a worldly level, which leads to rebirth, good rebirth, but to take that to the next level of making it transcendent karma. Should I guess intention is most important. Like one is doing this nibbana pachayo hotu. May this be a factor for nibbana. Is that
Yes,
what?
asakhayo homi. Asakhayo homi. Nibbana pachayo homi.
Wow.
Let my asava, my what you call fermentations, I want to remove my fermentation, asava. And so let wisdom arise in me to get rid of my asava. This punya helps me to get rid of me.
Wow.
You see?
I do. And so that's our motive. In everything we do, we should keep that in mind. May this be a seed for nibbana. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Bhante. You mentioned concentration, and in another one of your recent talks, you said something which I think is a bit counterintuitive for many people who are new to meditation. You say that, quote, concentration is a very active state. And for many people, they think that concentration is just like resting. You're resting the body and you're resting the mind, and it's like sleep, while you're sitting up, some people think. Could you talk about how concentration is a very active state?
There are 4 kinds of samadhi. One samadhi is to have a peace. Ditta dhamma sukha viharanam.
Right.
Ditta dhamma sukha vihara patilabhanam. To be just peaceful, you can get that peaceful state anytime from anything. That is what all the rishis, sages, munis, mendicants did before Buddha came into existence. Anybody can get that. That is Ditta Dhamma Sukha Vihara. Second is Darsana Jnana Darsana Patilabhaya. Jnana Darsana means developing various kind of powers, like reading others' mind, hearing sounds far away places, and sending your mind to the previous lives, and contemplating on the future lives, and seeing others dying and taking rebirth. And all these things are jnana darsana. So you can develop concentration for that. Third is sati sampajanyang patilabhaya. Third is mindfulness and clear comprehension. You practice you gain concentration, samadhi, to have mindfulness and clear comprehension. What does the mindfulness do? And concentration, mindfulness and concentration see the root of wholesome or unwholesome. When they arise in your mind, right away you know, this is unwholesome. I must get rid of it. This is wholesome. I must cultivate it. That is the third meaning of samadhi, third purpose of samadhi. Fourth purpose is asavakhe jnanam patilabhaya. Fourth purpose is asavakhe jnanam patilabhaya. That is what you see even in the fourth jhana. When you attain the fourth jhana, you can see fourth jhana has 8 qualities. One, it has Parisuddha, Pariyodata, Anagana, Vibhutu, Upakalesa, Muddhabhuta, Kammani, Tita, Ananjapata. These are the 8 qualities in the fourth jhana. And then in the sutta says, Evam Parisuddhe, Pariyodate, Anagane, Vibhutu, Upakalesa, Muddhabhuta, Kammani, Tita, Ananjapata, Asavakhe jnana chittang abhininnameti. With these qualities, you focus the mind on destruction, not defilements. How can you focus the mind on destruction, not defilements, if you are just like a vegetable when you are in the jhana? Vegetable cannot do anything. A rock cannot do anything. That is the time your mind is sharpest and the cleanest. And the sharpest and cleanest mind can see the deepest changes in your 5 aggregates. Body, feeling, perception, thought, and consciousness are constantly changing at inconceivable rapidity. That fast changing aggregates cannot be seen by anything else but with clear comprehension, clear mindfulness, and sharp concentration. It is just like a laser beam. The mind is so sharp and the eyes are very clear. Eyes is wisdom, your wisdom. What you call clarity is your concentration. This is the time both shake hand, samatha, vipassana, yuganadha. Samatha, vipassana must join together in order to do the job, to destroy defilements. Then only you can see greed, hatred, delusion, all other defilements in your mind, and that is the time you can destroy them, eliminate them from the mind. And that you can do in concentration. If the some people I heard, as soon as you sit, you don't hear anything, don't feel anything, nothing, you just like a rock. Like a rock. That would do nothing to you to get rid of your suffering. And therefore, I say concentration is the sharpest, cleanest, most powerful, one-pointed moment that can be focused on destruction or defilements.
Right. So in this view, all 4 of those types of developments of samadhi are very active states, and
Very
all
active.
4 jhanas are very active states. Is that correct?
Right.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you, Bhante. I'm going to switch now to a few questions which Tan Nisabo has submitted. He unfortunately can't be here. He's on Alms Round in Seattle, but he had a number of very good questions. So he points out that you earned a PhD at American University, and he's curious how you feel that Western philosophy and Buddhism differ, or are they the same, or do they differ? And if they do differ, how do they differ?
Well, I rather reluctant to make the comparison, I must say, since you asked the question. Western philosophy based on soul and God. Soul and God, because it is based on religions and the origin of the world and the soul. Buddhism does not based on soul and gold.
Mm.
That's the big difference between Western philosophy and Buddhist. I would know. I would say, if you want to say philosophy, Buddhist philosophy.
Mm.
That's the big difference between these two.
Mm.
And moreover, I must say, even though I took philosophy, I don't remember anything of it right now, because as soon as I finish you know why I took got PhD? I
I'm
just
curious.
wanted to have a confidence in me to face American people,
Uh-huh.
and also want to improve my English. I just
Mm.
learned the methodology. I learned the method,
Mm.
and that is the method I'm using to teach Dhamma. And therefore, I learned logic and all these things you required for philosophy. I learned, but I
Right.
completely gave up all of them and returned to my water. I was out of water, a fish out of water. Now I'm in the water as a fish.
Wow.
So I forgot most of the philosophy now.
Wow. Bhante, do you recommend for yeah, I can understand your thoughts around getting a PhD. Do you recommend that other monks, say younger monks, try to get a PhD? Like so I'm part of the Thai forest tradition, which yeah really doesn't emphasize scholasticism. It's very rare, almost unheard of, that a monk would attend university, much less get a PhD. But for the reasons that you list, that like Americans and people in the West really hold having degrees in high regard, do you recommend that that might be a good thing, even if someone already has English and doesn't need to develop that aspect? Or do you think it's not really necessary?
Actually, that is for persons like you whose mother tongue is English and express things very clearly in English, live with English speaking people, go around the world and give talks in English. People like you don't need that. But
That's great. I'm
people
happy to hear
coming,
that.
people coming from other countries, English is not my mother tongue.
Mm,
I picked up English as an adult,
mm,
and therefore I thought of going as far as I could
mm,
to stop it and then come back to my teaching, uh,
mm,
teaching Dhamma and meditation and so forth. And
mm,
therefore, if somebody is interested, I don't want to stop it. That person may have reason, just like
mm,
I do. I know two
mm,
other monks, one in Canada, one in Pittsburgh.
mm,
When they got PhD, my first question I
mm,
asked them was, when are you going to disrobe?
mm,
Both of them said, Bhante, we are following your example.
mm,
You got PhD, but you did not disrobe.
mm,
And those two monks are doing wonderful service.
mm,
With full confidence, they teach Dhamma.
mm,
And if
mm.
somebody wants to equip with kind of qualification and prepare themselves to teach Dhamma, I encourage them.
Wow. Bhante, such a wonderful answers. I'm curious, last night we were having a discussion about the Dhammanyu Sutta from the Anguttara number 7s. And in there they talk about the Pugala Paro Paranyu, and the last, which is knowing distinctions among individuals. And there they talk about, they say the last type of distinction one should recognize is between someone who practices Dhamma for their own benefit, but not for the benefit of others, and the other type of person who practices both for their own benefit and for the benefit of others. And in this sutta, the Buddha says that one who practices for their own benefit but not for others is blameworthy in that regard. And I'm curious, in trying to understand this, was speaking to someone and they said, that doesn't make any sense. It seems like if one is practicing for one's true own benefit, won't that necessarily benefit others? What do you think about that?
I think one who practices Dhamma for his own benefit means to attain liberation by overcoming all the defilements. And Buddha praised such a person because even though he does not teach others verbally, he does not teach others verbally, he can teach others by example.
Right. Right.
Teaching by example is far better than teaching in words. That is what Buddha meant. And therefore, attaining, if somebody practice for one's own benefit, and Buddha said in I don't remember right now the discourse in Majjhima Nikaya, I think anyway, I don't remember the discourse. It's in Majjhima Nikaya. If one eat food after attaining enlightenment, that person eat that food for the benefit of the giver and for the benefit of the relatives of the giver. And and also, his Anguttara Nikaya says even if one practices metta, even for a fraction of a second, he will be free from indebtedness to people. If one practices anicca, impermanence, for even a fraction of a second, he also is free from indebtedness to people. So one's own personal development is far more important than verbally teaching others, because that person's, all, for instance, Pacceka Buddha, he doesn't teach anything, but he's perfectly enlightened. And people who seeing him, supporting him, respecting him, gain a lot of merits. Therefore, Buddha always, when Venerable Ananda was not attained enlightenment, he had not attained enlightenment by the time Buddha passed away. Buddha said, Ananda, in Mahasunyata Sutta, I think, he said, Ananda, don't behave like my enemy. How can he say that? Because Ananda was so close to the Buddha. He took care of the Buddha all the time. He was his personal attendant for 25 years. And still Buddha said, don't behave like my enemy. What does it mean? It means, Ananda, strive hard and attain enlightenment for your benefit. And therefore, the personal attainment of enlightenment itself is more important than teaching others.
Wow.
Therefore, because the one who attains enlightenment is so pure, clean, and he remains Chattari Purusha, Attapurusa Puggala. And when we pay respect, their Buddha did not ask everybody to teach. You just become pure and clean by yourself within your own mind. And even if you don't say don't give even one Dhamma sermon, doesn't matter. And therefore, the more important thing is to attain liberation.
Wow, thank you,
That is
Bhante.
how I justify it.
Wow, that's a very, it's something you don't hear very often.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Bhante, another question from Tan Nisabo is, could you name 2 or 3 teachings or suttas which have been most powerful in your life, which you return to again and again? What might those be? Those 2 or 3?
I see. The Anatta Lakkana Sutta. I mean, every sutta is Anatta Lakkana Sutta is the more powerful. I mean, not only most powerful. I mean, many suttas are most powerful, and what do you call this? Then Anicca Sanya Sutta in Samyutta Nikaya. Anicca Sanya Sutta. Anicca Sanya Sutta has given 10 similes. I tell you one simile.
Please, please.
Each simile is very powerful. Anicca Sanya Sutta. The last simile says, suppose in the autumn, when all the leaves of trees are fallen, the sky is very clear, no clouds, blue sky. At that time, sun rises. Anybody with good eyesight can see any object. Similarly, if you have developed anicca sanya, impermanence, perception of impermanence, you are fully enlightened. In Girimananda Sutta, anicca sanya is number 1. Perception of impermanence is number 1. And in Anatta Lakkana Sutta, Buddha nullified the notion of atta by using impermanence. First he has rupang nityang anityang vati. Anityam bhante. Yampana nityang dukkang vatan sukhang vati. Dukkham bhante. Yampana nityang dukkang viparinadam dhammang khallang nutang samanupasitung etang mama eso hamasmi eso mayatta no etam bhante. So when you see impermanence, there is no room in your mind to see this I am, this is mine, this is myself. I, myself, have no room in the face of impermanence. Yang kinchi samudaya dhamman sabbhantan nirodham, whatever arises, passes away. There's no space for I, myself. And therefore these 2 sutras, I mean all the sutras, Buddhist sutras are wonderful. These 2 sutras are very powerful. Satipatthana Sutta, repeat the same message. Satipatthana Sutta, Anapana Sati Sutta, repeat Anapana Sutta, Sati Sutta, last tetrad says, Anicca sissami sikkati, viraga sissami sikkati passisami sikkati, nirodha sissami sikkati passisami sikkati, patinissagga sissami. Anicca, viraga, nirodha, patinissagga, they are also anicca. And this body exists for us to know impermanence. Feeling exists for us to know impermanence. Perception exists for us to see impermanence. Volition exists for us to see impermanence. Mind exists for us to see impermanence. Therefore, Anicca Sutta, all the sutras, you see that.
Wow. Thank you so much, Bhante. Is it possible for one to know the anatta sanya, so to be able to realize and know not self without using anicca, so to actually just see the truth of not self without going through the doorway of anicca or is
No,
that
no.
it's not? No.
No. There are three
Okay.
doorways. Sunyata, Animitta, Appanihita.
Huh.
Sunyata, Animitta, Appanihita.
Huh.
All this shows that there is nothing permanent, nothing there. Everything appears and disappears. Buddha said, Ahutva sambhavati hutva pativeti. Ahutva sambhavati hutva pativeti. You can see this Anupada Sutta, Sutta number 111 in Madhyama Nikaya. Ahutva sambhavati. Something exists, something which was not there comes into existence and then disappears without leaving a trace. Ahutva sambhavati. Hutva pativeti. Something exists through the causes and conditions and then disappears without any shades, without leaving anything behind. And therefore, without seeing impermanence, you cannot gain this insight.
Wow, thank you, Bhante. So obviously, as through the whole of our conversation and in pretty much all of your Dhamma talks, you will spontaneously be able to recite suttas in Pali. And I'm curious, many people nowadays will actually denigrate the process of memorizing discourses and say, why do you need to memorize discourses? We now have them in print. You're just wasting your brain space. You only have, so much capacity for thinking and processing things. Why waste time on memorizing things when you have them written out? I'm curious if you could speak about the benefit that you've personally gained from memorizing discourses.
You see, in this technological advanced age, wherever you go, you have to take the cell phone or computer, laptop. You cannot carry all these volumes of books. You cannot carry. You have to have at least cell phone or something. Suppose you go to some place without anything. How can you do Dhamma talk? Where can you find the sources? I go to, I travel in all the world. I don't carry any book. I didn't have cell phone. Only cell phone came later. And I gave Dhamma talk all from my memory. Of course, I had a special privilege. When I was young, I had a photographic memory. I could memorize anything by listening only once.
Wow.
Even now, my short-term memory is not very good. But long-term memory, I remember most of the thing. Entire Dhammapada I memorized, 426 stanzas. So many sutras I memorized. And now, of course, I don't remember. 18,000 sutras are there. I don't remember all of them now. But some sutras I can repeat with word verbatim. So that helped me. Most of my senior monks gave up giving Dhamma talks at the age of 60 because they cannot remember. So even now I don't remember everything, therefore I have to write. But when I write, I remember, for instance, I walk, do my walking meditation. While walking meditation, I have a pen and a writing pad. And I write. Coming from my memory, I write. And then I turn them into books.
Wow, this is so interesting. Would you recommend, so say there's a layperson who's not a Buddhist teacher, they do have devices, they're never separated from devices, and maybe they don't have such a photographic memory, and it takes them a long time to memorize bits of Dhamma. Would you still recommend that it's useful, even if it takes time, even if they do have access to these things? Would you still recommend that there's usefulness to it?
I think there are two ways I recommend. One is either memorize or clearly understand. Once you understood something, that will never go out of your mind.
Hmm.
It remains in your mind.
Hmm.
Say, for instance, 2 into 2 is 4.
Uh-huh.
Nobody can change that.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Why? Because it is stuck in your mind,
Hmm.
and you know
Mhm.
2 by 2 or 2 into 2 or 2 plus 2 are 4. Similarly, when you understood something very, very clearly, it stays in your mind. These are the two ways. One is understand it properly. When you read something, read it again and again and again and again until you understand it correctly. And then close the book and repeat it. Repeat it at night from your memory. Repeat next morning from your memory. Short passage, short dumb point. And then that stays in your mind. Then you will never forget it.
Wow. Bhante, you mentioned writing on a regular basis, and I'm curious, do you use your, say when you're walking and you have your notebook with you, do you use your writing just as a way of recording your thoughts, or is it actually a way that helps you think? Like when you're writing, you're actually developing your ideas.
Yeah, when I walk, I write my notes and then come back and develop these thoughts and write. And then, of course, I get somebody whose mother tongue is English to get it edited. Because, as you know, even now you can see my English and your English. Therefore, whenever I write, I always get somebody to edit my English.
Bhante, I realize I've taken up a lot of your time already. Maybe I can just ask one last question from Tan Nisabo. He had a number of questions about death. I didn't want to bring those up too early because people might be scared off. But I'm curious if you have one piece of advice for someone who's approaching death, what would that be?
I would advise the person to see momentary death. People think of death as you are born on 2000, 2000 and died on 2020, and then that is your conventional death. But before that death, there are millions of deaths in your life. Every moment you are born and died, every moment. Just focus the mind on your own experiences. Your feeling rises and falls, perceptions, thought, consciousness dies and is born and is dying much faster than anything else. Your body, say for instance, you breathe. You breathe. How long can you stay without breathing? You cannot stay too long because your cells needs oxygen. Every moment you breathe, you pump oxygen to your cells. 56 trillion cells in your body needs oxygen, and they die immediately when there is no oxygen. Death is right there. That is death. Your feelings die every moment. Perception dies every moment. Your thought and consciousness die. Everything dies and retaking rebirth every moment. If this is what the Buddha said in Maranasati discourse in Anguttara Nikaya, Maranasati, the one monk said, among 6 months, last monk said, Venerable Sir, if I live long enough to take one breath and breathe out, that time is enough for me to practice mindfulness of death. What does it mean? In one breath, there are so many moments of dying because the breath is not one single cylindrical object. It is made up of air particles, air waves. They are coming into you while dying. And therefore, if one learns that quick death even in one breath, that person will not be afraid of the conventional death. Okay, as you said, I also have to close because our lunchtime is approached.
Bhante, thank you so much. This has been wonderful, very, very heartening, lovely in many ways. So thank you, Bhante.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay.